Okay, we're live.
Hello, Done For Podcast, Episode 7.
And such.
Yeah,
You didn't say and such.
well, I was letting you say it.
Okay. Well, hello everyone. Today we're here with Godroster. He is a very well known player, famous for doing the canal, among other things. Say hello.
Hey, what's up, guys?
So today we're just going to kind of talk and see where the conversation goes. We do have some questions, but they're not going to be too intrusive. It's just meant to be like a jumping off point to talk about various different things.
Yeah, absolutely. Sounds good. Let's do it.
So tell me about like your 2B2T journey.
Man, that's a good question. Okay, so at risk of sounding like a casual, I actually haven't been playing Minecraft for very long. I learned how to play Minecraft, I'd say in 2018, so maybe 4 or 5 years ago. I learned how to play because my daughter was playing Minecraft at the time, and she wanted somebody to play with her. And I guess some of her online friends bailed on her. So I was like, okay, well, I'll learn how to play and I'll play with you. This is, of course, strictly Bedrock. This was like console to console kind of thing.
Yeah, back in the day.
Yeah, exactly. And none of us had, the top end PCs or any of that other stuff. So it was like a PlayStation or like a Switch, one of those kind of things.
Mm-hmm.
And then we started watching some Minecraft videos, and one of the Minecraft videos that kept popping up was a guy named FitMC. And yeah, I know I get a lot of crap for this as soon as you say, I'm here because of FitMC.
No, I bet you
Oh, yeah.
like
You're not
eighty
alone.
percent of people playing the server right now are here because of Fit.
Personally, yeah.
Like
He's a
that's
really cool guy. He is.
yeah, nothing to be ashamed of there. Really, it's not. Well, when was this though? Like, what year did you join?
I started watching FitMC videos in 2022.
Wow.
Yes, that's the first time that I even knew that there was such thing as like servers
Oh,
on Java
So
Edition.
you're that recent of a join.
I am a new friend,
I had
as they
no
would say.
idea. I had no idea.
I thought it was at least 2021.
That's fascinating. Well, that
No,
that means, if anything, that means this is going to be a really interesting interview because you have probably a very different perspective on the server from a lot of the other players here because that's such a recent join. So okay, so you started watching Fit in 2022, and then when did you actually join? Like your first time?
okay, so to set the scene a little bit, we actually okay, so we have YouTube set up on the living room TV, right? And we watch random funny videos as a family while we're eating and stuff. And the Minecraft videos kind of made their way into the old algorithm. And so at night when we ate our supper, we would be watching FitMC videos, right? This was up until late July, early August of 2022. So that's 10 months ago, 9 or 10 months ago. And I've never played on PC, so I was like, oh, I hear so much about this, and I've been seeing this all over the place. We've been watching Fit for so long. Let me go ahead and fire it up. You know, well, let me make a Java account and let me try playing Java Minecraft for a bit. And I think it was like I said, the very end of July, and I just
Hello?
hey, still there?
Oh, my, I accidentally muted myself. um,
Everyone's just talking over you.
no, it's fine. It's fine. So, okay, so you joined, you said in late July? Or, hold on. What was your first couple weeks on the server like in, that time period?
So I escaped from spawn the first time, and I ended up dying of starvation, surrounded by some trees that I managed to track down, and I was whacking the trees, looking for apples while starving to death, and that kind of, that's kind of what made me think about how most people, when they join the server, they're not dying to, getting killed by people. They're escaping from spawn, but they're dying to, hunger. So my second time spawning in, I successfully got, a decent amount away from spawn, and that was when I built the cookie shack. There's a date on the placard. I think it was July 29th. I'm not looking right at it, but I knew it was the very end of July, and that's when I built the cookie shack. And it wasn't called the cookie shack at the time. It was just a small little house.
The cookie shack, is that on the canal or?
It is very close to spawn, in an area that, by some miracle, has not been griefed yet.
I've actually been there, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And, you tell some people, and they tell a bunch of other people, and like I said, it's a miracle thus far that it hasn't been griefed, but it's still there, almost exactly how it looked from when I joined to this very day.
Mm-hmm.
And that was when I started collecting supplies. Nobody on the server, so I just kind of went about gathering stuff and trying to, just get the basics, like you would in a survival world. All I've ever played is survival world, so
yeah.
Going around and getting sugar cane together to get paper, to make books, to make enchanting tables, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. So you join, you escape spawn finally, and then you build the cookie shack. So yeah, I mean that is something you can say about 2B, is that there are all kinds of very interesting little fun locations all over spawn, near spawn, that no one has found yet, or that like griefers haven't found. And the cookie shack, I guess, is one of those locations that people can just stumble on and have a unique experience with.
Yeah, and some people leave signs and say that they've been by there, so I know that people have found it.
Mm-hmm. So is that a place that you still maintain to this day? Like you said, it's still there?
2 or 3 times a week I'm over there. I have a giant wheat farm and a giant cocoa farm because I, the name. So I'm out there literally making, shulkers full of cookies to go put on my canal. So yeah, like.
I have a question actually. So, what first brought you to managing the canal? Because that's not something I could see myself, wanting to do soon.
All the time over there, and I'm surprised because I always.
Hello?
He's cutting out really bad.
So, Godroster, how did you get involved with the canal group? or because there's more than one canal group.
That's a bit later.
We'll just talk about the ones that you're involved with, or the ones that you got involved with.
Yeah, sure. It's funny because it was kind of a cart before the horse kind of situation. I just happened to go south without any knowledge of like what direction I was going, and I just happened to be kind of close to the Southern Canal. And I got over there and started wandering back and forth along it because I saw so many people passing by there. And I saw that it was completely wrecked, and it's just, any area near spawn is going to be wrecked. That's kind of just the way that it works. But it was like so bad off in my head, I've got these unrealistic expectations of what the server's supposed to be like, and in my head I'm like, where's the canal group and the highway workers union? They should be on top of this every second of the day. So I just kind of started pacing back and forth along the canal and kind of repairing it bit by bit, as I soon realized through the polite gentleman in chat that people aren't too quick to jump on board to answer any kind of calls to repair things. So I just started walking back and forth, repairing the canal, and that is when I got the idea to start. The first time that I starved to death made me realize that other people run into the same problem. You can see it on the kill feed, people starving to death like constantly. So I was like, yeah, why not just start leaving stuff over there? And the cookie thing came up because I just happened to be close to a jungle, and it was my daughter who was watching me play. It was like, hey, why don't you make cookies? Because that's like it's the kind of food that people won't hoard, and they won't like go out of their way to steal. It's not like I'm leaving gapples everywhere, or even like steak or anything. Realistically, the cookies are it's like the worst food in the game. I can't think of one worse than that, except for maybe spider eyes or rotten flesh or something. So,
aren't melons the same hunger value as cookies?
They are. The difference is that
melons
cookies
are faster.
Require crafting.
Yeah, melons are faster. That's true.
So there was some degree of effort involved, and I was over near a jungle at the time. So it just worked out that way, and a combination of having the right supplies and wanting to help people not starve to death right away. I started making the booths over on the Southern Canal.
So did you eventually meet someone that told you about the SCA, and then you joined it, or
yes.
How did that work?
So I had, I think, maybe 10 or 12 of these little booths along the Southern Canal when I found a sign from someone who's still a good friend of mine today, a guy named Ninja Sir, who said, hey, we're working on the Southern Canal. We really like these booths. Here's my Discord handle. And I was kind of new to Discord. I've had Discord for a while, but I never actually used it. So I went on there and I contacted him, and he was like, "Yeah, no, absolutely. We love the booths and everything else. It's really cool." And I guess at the time he assumed that because Ninja Sir's I don't want to say how old he is. He's younger. As opposed to a grandpa like I am, So we got to talking, and he's like, yeah, I didn't realize, he said later on he didn't realize that, I was some random old guy that's playing with his kids and stuff. But he said, hey, we're working on the canal. Why don't you come help us out? We like these little booths and everything. And but at this point, it was probably October, I think. Maybe late September, early October of last year. So I was like, yeah, sure, why not? And then he's like, yeah, just meet me out over, at like 350K. And I'm like, what the fuck? How am I supposed to get out there? At this point, I'm still playing in vanilla. So, like, I don't even have a shulker box or elytra or anything, So all of the canal work that I did involved me getting my inventory filled up with cookies and then walking X amount of blocks over towards the canal and then walking down to each booth. I could fill up 3 or 4 with the inventory that I had, and then I'd have to just walk all the way back over to get some more. So I had to go AFK, auto walk style to get over there, all the way out to where people were working on the canal. So that was when everyone was like, "Hey, man, why in the world are you using Rusher or any of my client?"
Interesting. So you were kind of involved with the SCA right from the start. You didn't actually. I don't know. There wasn't a time period of you playing on the server and dabbling in all of these other groups, and then you just decided you wanted to work on the canal. You kind of just fell into it very naturally.
I did.
Very unique, honestly.
Yeah, it's a pretty unique story. So I take it you joined their Discord, and didn't you end up as like their leader too?
It was an odd progression, and it started off okay. Well, I should say that I didn't create the SCA. I think that there are 2B wiki articles and similar other things that say that somehow I'm the guy that created the SCA. It's not true at all. It was 3 guys that created it, and I was one of the first people that ended up joining. This was probably about a week or 2 after the SCA was formed.
Yeah, it says Godroster created the SCA on the wiki. It does say that.
Yeah, I know. How noble of me. No, I absolutely did not. I was asked to join early on, and I think that the reason that all of that happened was because my name ended up getting associated with the Southern Canal, and it was because there was a FitMC video that was released about the Southern Canal like 2 weeks after I had joined officially.
Mm-hmm.
And I had been on the server, like I said, at this point, probably about 2 months or so, kind of off and on. And I had started building, like supply stations, like repair stations and stuff out near 350, 370, 380K, all the way out kind of where the canal was at its end. And
so then when Fit did that video, he found those?
Yes. Okay. Yes, he did.
How many Fit videos were there about the canal? There were 3, I believe, or 4 possibly?
There was 2.
There was a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he covered it way back in 2017, I think.
I thought you meant that Godroster was in. Yeah.
No, he covered it way back in 2017, and then there was a video about the canal, then a video about the canal getting blocked, and then
there was 2 where he traveled it, right?
Yeah. So you joined during one of those moments. I feel like I'm not up on my history of all this stuff, but
that's all right, man. I don't know a ton of history either, and if I'm making any kind of reference to 2B history, I'm kind of like really dumb with that kind of stuff. I don't know a lot about it, so like.
Well, you joined recently enough that you don't know probably a lot of the history, but a lot of it is kind of a little bit irrelevant. especially when it comes to like, I don't know, just
Yeah, you don't need to know any
yeah,
of
you
it,
kind of
really.
don't need to know any of it, but yeah. So you joined when was this? When was this that he made that first video about the canal, and then like
Yeah.
what
Okay.
month was it?
This was, I remember, it was October 14th, 2022. I remember it because I was looking forward to the new Chili Peppers album that was coming out that day. So I woke up early because I was going to go check it out on Spotify, and I got a message on Discord out of nowhere from the guy that I had that ran a 2B shop that I had bought kits from in the past, saying, "Yo, Fit just talked about you in his new video." Which the only contact I had with this dude was buying kits from him. So it's like the equivalent of like your drug dealer telling you that he saw you on the news. And so I was like, "Oh, what? Okay." And then I started getting a whole bunch of other messages from people that I either didn't know or I barely knew, saying, "Hey man, Fit MC just mentioned you in his video." So I'm like, "All right, well, I'll go check it out." And I went over to check it out, and yeah, he had mentioned me a couple different times, mainly for the random cookie shacks that I had made over near Spawn, and then for the repair stations that I made over towards the end of the canal. And at the time, people had just, because the SCA was very young at this point in time, so there are people that are trying to get their name out there and such. And the video is definitely not about the SCA. It was just about the canal, and then my name popped up like 2 or 3 different times, and then that was the whole of it. So the people that actually originated the whole group, the founders, I guess you could say, they didn't get a mention in the video, and that did make things kind of difficult for me, because like I was very new to the group and I hadn't really done a whole lot besides making a few rest stops and a few repair stations, and the 3 founders of the group didn't get a single mention in the entire video. So there was a little bit of animosity involved when that video came out.
Well, so who were the real founders then, if it wasn't you?
Ninja Sir, AB Next Up, who's a player named Andita, and then a third person were the founders of the SCA.
I see. So you joined, and you got promoted just because you were one of the first people and because you were very dedicated, I assume. Is that a good kind of summary of what happened?
Yeah, it was like I said, a long time ago here.
Yeah.
It was a cart before the horse situation, because I was kind of put almost at a point of obligation where like I'd been mentioned in this video as being, this dedicated member of the Southern Canal, and I don't like saying I was obliged to do so, like it was an obligation, but I kind of felt, responsible for trying to work with the canal and work with all the people there and continue, building on it, and that was when I started dedicating myself to not just building the canal outward, but to improve the infrastructure along the way and to try to gather more members as we went along. So it didn't hurt that most of the people in the group were very young. So some random old guy showing up, it tends to help make things run smoothly, because the older folk that don't really have a lot else going on, they're the ones that can kind of stick to something and kind of move along with it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm not like I'm the best builder. It's not like I'm the most dedicated player. It's not like I'm a really good cooker or anything like that. Honestly, I'm just some guy. The only advantage that I really have is that I have dedication, and I stick to what I'm doing, and I don't just kind of flitter off into other ventures. I've just been dedicated on just the canal since I've started.
Yeah, well, that's, it's certainly taken you places, and it's taken the canal places. I mean, the canal now is probably, well, the canal right now is much bigger and much longer than it ever was before. It's a lot bigger of a deal than it used to be, I think. So
and there's a lot of controversy around the canal, if you can believe it.
Yeah.
The controversy around a big long stretch of water on a Minecraft server.
So let's talk about that. So how did that start, and what was your experience with first the fifth column deciding to attack the canal, and then later on
the Southern Highway thing?
Yeah, like the maxi taxi thing. What wasn't that maxi taxi thing that he started? Anyway,
Cool.
So you're in the canal. Everything's going okay. You guys are on the way to 500K, and then what happens? There's a whole drama, a whole shit show episode that.
Yeah.
There's like an ordeal that lasted multiple months, right?
It did. I would say at least a month or so. And it was some of our members that had made their way out towards the end, because at this point, we had gained a tremendous amount of momentum. We had started at, I think, 340 and very slowly made our way up to like 400K. And then from 400, I think when the first Southern Canal video came out, we were at 410K. That's where the canal ended. But when the video came out, we had this huge wave of people that were interested in helping out. And we had probably a few hundred new members to the Discord. And out of the few hundred, there was at least 50 or so that were out there every day working on the canal. And how videos like that on YouTube, whether it's Fit or Fast Vincent or Salsy One, that tends to spark interest in a particular thing. We had just barreled ahead from 410 all the way to like knocking on the door of 500K within, I can't tell you for sure, but less than a month for certain. And I guess I didn't even know who Fifth Column was at the time. Just to be honest, everybody's like, we saw some people that are from Fifth Column, and I'm like, what in the world is Fifth Column? And there were a few dedicated members that had made their way out there and had said that there were ships out there, and it was kind of just a bunch of confusion at first, because they didn't jump right out and say, hey, we're the ones doing this. But eventually they created like their own Discord server and their own project called the Southern Canal Incursion, the SCI. And obviously you've seen the video, I'm sure, at this point. You have an idea of how, they're blocking it off with the big obsidian ships. They had shipped in some Elder Guardians from a nearby temple. But they had put them in these obsidian boxes, and that somehow became a big part of the story. But in truth, those boxes had been destroyed like the very first day that they were put up. There's a guy named I don't know what I want to call him. There was a guy that on the very first day wrecked them with withers, and there were a number of 5C guys that were like very unhappy about the whole situation. Yeah, and I look back at stuff like that, almost with a fondness, because it was kind of funny, it was clever, and it was a pain, obviously, but and most of the people were out there to just do PvP stuff and everything, but it was like a some kind of effort was involved in the grief. So
yeah,
I give credit to that.
Well, so the Fit video took the canal from being this somewhat clandestine thing that had a handful of people maintaining it, to being this huge group that had a bunch of people in it all expanding the canal. And then it also attracted the attention of the ne'er-do-wells and the griefers. So it's kind of a double-edged sword.
Exactly, and there's a lot of good that came from it, but I would say ultimately it was more bad than good that came from it. And there were actually a number of groups that reached out to help us out during the time. There's this one builder group, Dom something. I don't exactly remember who they are.
Yeah, yeah.
They reached out to help us out with a parallel canal, and that has made its way into the history books. And it's a parallel canal that still stands to this very day as a means of circumnavigating.
Damn, really?
Ships.
That's still there?
Very much so.
You're kidding me.
Yeah, one of the coolest guys that I've had the privilege of playing with, a guy named Andita. He went out of his way to basically non-stop work on that parallel canal all the way down. I think it was 35,000 blocks, or something like that,
To get to 500K?
to get all the way to 500K and reconnect over there.
That was
I didn't even know.
Like, I didn't know that. The fuck? Okay. Now that it's like, what, 6 months ago or something? How long ago was this? 5 months ago? 6 months ago?
It was in November.
Anyway, now that it's in the past, I could just come out and say that parallel canal idea was a fucking horrible idea. It was really dumb and really silly, and the only reason I was suggesting it is it's like, well, better than nothing, eh? Like, it was kind of just like a, hey, maybe if we're building this parallel canal, we're like distracting them, like that. The only point of it was just to be a big distraction.
Yeah, and it certainly helped.
Yeah, it helped a little bit. I'm shocked to hear that someone actually completed it.
It was. I think it was mostly Andita. Yeah, and it was months and months after the 5C thing was done, and I think that it was just like a completionist kind of situation. So now, when people look back on that point in time, they'll see this giant parallel canal that's actually completed all the way across. And I helped out a little bit with the parallel canal at the very beginning because I mean the fifth column there, they kind of forced a dichotomy among 2B players where like you couldn't really be indifferent about the canal. You kind of had to have like, you kind of supported it or you kind of didn't support it,
Yeah.
And Donfuhr and I guess Imperials a bit showed up to help out during the time, and a few other people here and there that I think showed up more in name, like, hey, we're here to help, but not like in actual person out there helping.
Yeah.
But looking back on it, it was unique and it was kind of fun. And it really introduced me to how griefing group really works on the canal, on the server, because there's a lot of different ways to grief, but they chose a very unique and kind of funny way to do it.
Yeah.
And so it was a looking back, it was a good memory. At the time, I was kind of pissed, but
well, it was basically a crash course on like 2B2T politics for everyone in the SCA, because there was so much behind the scenes bullshit, and the fifth column was obviously doing it for clout, and the whole thing was just a giant, like, who's going to control the narrative type of event. It's just, they've got their narrative of what happened, and you guys have your narrative of what happened, and everyone's like being like, the canal's over. No, it's not. We're fighting back. Blah, 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 blah. And yeah, I think, I don't know. There's a lot to be learned from that. I'm sure, as you said, that you learned a lot from that experience.
I did, and it had been about a month since the original Southern Canal, not the original, but the previous Southern Canal video came out.
Yeah.
And between that point in time and the point where the incursion started, I had gone from just barely being a part of the SEA to being one of the, leading members of it.
Right.
And I honestly, I didn't know anything about how 2B politics or any of that other stuff works out. So it was all new stuff for me.
I mean, I think the big message that I remember trying to communicate to you guys was like, basically this is a temporary thing, and
Right.
basically like the fifth column and the other people involved, or the other groups, are basically just doing this for clout, and so you have to outlast them. And that's something that I have learned from Dawn Fear, is whenever there is a shit storm, quote unquote, or a mob of people coming after you, or a particular griefing group that's targeting you really, really hard, the best solution is, well, it's not the best solution, because it's not a great solution, but pretty much the only solution is that you have to wait it out, because everything else is very, very hit or miss as to whether it works. If you try to fight and win one of the drama battles,
oh, the drama!
It's like, you know what I mean? It's like it's engaging in it at all, even if you think you can win. Engaging in it at all just makes it worse, typically. So, yeah.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And you actually are the first 2B player that I ever heard say the phrase "control the narrative." It's crucial. It really is when it comes to these kinds of situations, because waiting it out means that you're the one that cares more about their cause. So however you end up phrasing it, being on the winning side or the ending up on the losing side all depends on where you are in that weird drama narrative that exists on the server.
Right. Well, in some way, you can kind of cede ground to them and let them feel like they've won, so that way they leave. Like, the fastest way to get rid of the fifth column in that situation would have been, and this is pretty much what happened, but it would have been to just be like, okay, you guys win, congratulations, and then they're like, oh, this is boring now, and then they leave, and then
you're 100% right, D. Like, right on the money. That's exactly what it was. We wanted to give them medals and be like, you guys killed it, great job, guys, because we didn't care about winning. We just wanted to keep building the canal, and they were keeping that from happening. Right. They could say that they were the winners. They could throw a big parade, and everyone could be like, "Man, Fifth Canal wrecked you guys." And we'd be like, "Sorry,
Fifth Canal
wrecked you guys." Fifth Canal, yeah.
That's funny. That's a funny slip of the tongue. Imagine if they rename themselves the Fifth Canal. Yeah. So, that would be funny, wouldn't it? Like a fifth, because see, there are 4 directions. North, south, east, west. But imagine if there was a...
The Fifth Canal is the Y-axis.
Yeah.
The Y canal.
Straight down from the top.
The Y-axis canal. Yeah. But no, like... that's definitely true, and understanding. You kind of have to understand the other side. Like, you have to understand why they're attacking you and like what they're doing it for, in order to be able to navigate. And it's incredibly tricky to navigate. That canal situation was just a giant mess, but it's definitely
was.
Sorry, go ahead.
And it was definitely the first controversy that I had to deal with the canal stuff. And,
Right. Well, and then afterward there was round 2, basically.
With the new griefing group.
No, the people that paved the canal over.
Yes. The griefing group that started doing that, and oddly enough, it was the Fifth Column that started the whole paving idea. Now,
Yeah.
I'm sure that people have tried to do it in the past, but to my knowledge, the very first time that I've heard of anybody trying to pave the canal to any great extent was Fifth Column members that were just sitting at 500k, making sure that the canal didn't get there. So as soon as any player got into render distance of 500k on the canal, they just go after him and kill him. And they got a lot of good PvP guys over there, you know. And SCA, we didn't do PvP, so if we saw people, we just ran. Right. So these PvP players that were stationed over there, like changing up the guard kind of situation, they got bored after a while. And one of the ideas they came up with was, paving the canal, just getting a scaffold on with a bunch of obsidian in your inventory and just making a huge giant wall of obsidian all the way down the canal. Now, not many people even really knew that was happening. Like I said, it was just kind of an idea that got tossed around between them, and something that didn't get a lot of publicity. But I think that's where the initial idea came from for this more recent round of canal paving that we've been subject to.
So, okay, so there's the Fifth Column attacking the canal, and that lasted probably a month, right? And then Fit makes his second video about the canal where he talks about the boats that block the canal. And then how long after that winded down was it before the Southern Highway thing paved the whole canal? And then we can talk about the recovery after that, or what has happened after that, because I really don't know what happened after that.
Yeah, sure. Well, I mean, speaking of Fifth Column, they when that video released, it was that very day that about 80% of their activity just stopped dead.
Right.
As soon as that video was gone, they were like, okay, mission accomplished.
Yeah,
there were some people that lingered
wanted
around and made things difficult for people for a while, but eventually we did get over to the 500k milestone, and as soon as we claimed 500k, had the full canal over there, that was kind of when the whole thing was done. 100% done, because they had won in the sense of garnering interest towards their cause, and we had won in the sense that we had in the long run persevered. This was November, and to answer your question, it was, I think, the very end of December and closer to the beginning of January when a few new anti-SCA groups started to pop up.
The SHA?
Yeah, I don't even regard their group. I just kind of call them the people that are griefing the canal.
Yeah, but they're definitely a separate they're separate from the fifth column, but not the same people.
Absolutely. There's no overlap between the two. And there are a few different groups that kind of cropped up around the same time.
Mm-hmm.
But most of them just kind of faded away. There was one that was, I think, called the anti-SCA, which, really is that what you're going to go for with your free time?
Yeah.
And then there was this other group that has been griefing the canal, and they started, I want to say, around the middle of January, and they were pretty transparent about it. And this day, I don't know really the reason. I assume that it was just like a challenge of, can it be done?
Were they?
And I've
sorry to interrupt you, but were they doing it to try to get into fit videos? Just like were they trying to copy the fifth column and like pave the canal and get it into a fit video? Was that the point of it, or?
I think that a lot of people became involved with the project, and they all kind of had different ideas of what they wanted from it. And yes, a number of them, absolutely, their only purpose for doing it was not just for clout or anything, any kind of nebulous concept. It was literally just, I want to be in a FitMC video. They literally messaged Fit on Discord and, commented in his Discord server.
Right.
Talking about, hey, check it out. We just paved the canal. This is so great. What they didn't realize, though, is that Fit wasn't going to make a video about it. There was no reason for him to. He'd already done so many different canal videos at this point. Because even the two that you mentioned that were back-to-back, about the canal itself and then about the incursion that happened afterwards with Fifth Column, there was another video afterwards that was another Fit video that was a Don Fuhr video.
Yeah.
That kind of connected to the canal, because one of the concepts was all the Don Fuhr people were over helping with the canal, and all of this bad stuff happened while they weren't there.
Mm-hmm. That's the Don Fuhr 25 video that was right after the canal. Yep. That's the video he released right after. I'm looking at his channel right now. So, yeah, so the people that attacked the canal later on, the damage they did, would you say that it's worse than what the fifth column did?
Yeah, exponentially. It
okay.
Was,
like the canal was completely paved. It was completely destroyed. I
certainly don't want to give credit to these people, but it was definitely like
much worse. Is what I heard. I heard it was much worse.
Yeah, and I've mentioned it in the past. I don't like dwelling on it, but I'm also not going to stick my head in the sand. It was not just complete, but almost impressive how quickly they managed to team up.
Right.
They just threw a bunch of money at bots with Prio, and just it was like maybe it was less than a month for sure, and they had paved literally the entire canal.
So
from the beginning to the end.
And I'm not saying that to promote them or anything. I think that the people who did that are pretty stupid, actually, because
they're all scumbags. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean they're vultures basically. They saw Fifth Column get into a fit video for the canal, and so then they thought, oh, the canal is hot shit. If we all go attack the canal, maybe we'll get into a fit video. And of course, that wasn't going to happen. They didn't think it through, and ultimately, I think they just wasted all of their. None of them got what they wanted. They spent all this time paving the canal just to be shitters, basically.
Yeah, like what?
Yeah.
Your entire day and night is going to be focused on griefing a public waterway,
right?
And I've mentioned a number of times that different people did it for different reasons. Some people did it just for the attention. Some people, the main person who I'm not going to name, bought a ton of cryo for a bunch of different bot accounts and paved probably, I would say, 75% of it just themselves with their bot accounts and such.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, it's from an outside perspective, it's almost impressive how quickly and I don't want to say covertly, but how complete their grief was of the whole thing. And yeah, they're all bastards. Don't get me wrong, but it's funny because they may not have realized it at the time, but the SCA and general canal support had kind of started dwindling and falling off a bit at that point in time. We had reached 500K. That was like the initial purpose for the group. Let's take the canal to 500K, right? And we got there. So some people left, some people came in and like, what do we do? Are we going to go past 500K? Are we going to build a giant monument over 500K? And when the griefing started, it kind of forced a change in the group in general, and it kind of forced a different outlook and a different mentality for canal building from that point on.
Mm-hmm. So, are you still a member of the SCA?
I am not.
Okay. So and I don't know if this is something that you're able to talk about or not, but didn't the SCA kind of fall apart and there's a new canal group now?
The SCA did indeed fall apart. The original 3 founders, Ninjaster's been busy with a lot of other stuff, and Dita, he's kind of busy with other stuff as well, and kind of back and forth. The 3rd founder, there's a lot of different stuff that happened with him involving some SCA Patreon stuff that I don't want to get into.
Okay. Yeah, don't get into it if it's. I don't
know who you're talking about.
I don't know what the heck you're talking about, but I'll just take your word for it that it's that we don't want to know.
No one wants to know. It's sketchy stuff.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. So, what about Thebes and Sound?
Good question.
Was that the guy that you didn't want to name?
No.
Okay.
No. This is some other guy.
Yeah. What about Thebes and Sound? What happened to him?
I realized that the paving was going on, right?
Yeah.
And we had created kind of a subsect group of the SCA, kind of like what you guys do with Dawnfear, where you have your, public Dawnfear group, and then you have like a private Dawnfear group. Well, we did something similar with the SCA, where we had like a group where we would talk about, important canal type matters and stuff, and then the other one where it was kind of a more general overview of how the group worked. I realized that it was so easy for anyone that wanted to grief the canal to just show up and grief it. I came in so new that I had no idea that there were people that would go 450,000 blocks just to mess up a public waterway for seemingly no reason.
Right. So at this point you learned and have gotten a lot more of a deeper understanding of how the server actually works.
Yes.
So, but why in particular did SCA fall apart? Was it the result of all of the pressure from the paving? Was it just everyone kind of lost interest at the same time?
It was a number of things. It started with me kind of challenging the builders and repairmen of the SCA to create a new defense for the canal. Because looking forward, ultimately we're going to fix the canal. What are we going to do in the future to try to keep this from happening again? And it was Thebes and Sound that reached out to me when he saw that very post of me creating a couple different barrier ideas and options and such. And he reached out to me and said, let me show you what we did back in the day to try to stop all of the griefing that was going on back then. And honestly, I knew Thebes was an older player. That was kind of all that I knew about him, is that he used to play back in the day. And as I'm sure you guys know, that people that had played the game a long time ago on 2B, it's pretty hit or miss. You don't really know if they're, some kind of great player or some random 4chan degenerate that just happened to jump in in the early stages.
Right.
So
yeah.
So I knew that Thebes created the canal. That was, I don't know a lot about the server, but that's one thing that I did know. Thebes and Sound, SCC created the canal.
Right.
I got to talking to him, and I was like blown away at how much knowledge that he had about not just technical builds, but about general defenses. It was unbelievable that Thebes knows more about defending the canal and stuff than I think any griefer could ever know. He's managed to think of ways of protecting the canal that no griefer could actually, that has yet to exploit.
Wow. Okay.
Very
Yeah, I was
interesting.
I really was, and normally I'm not so quick to heap praise, but I just I was really impressed, and I was like, wow, I never even thought of that. And then he'd say something else, and I'm like, wow, I never even thought of that. And it continued on. I'm like, wow, I'm so glad I'm not in charge of this, because I didn't think of any of this.
So was that part of the new... Did you and him form a new canal group, or is that still pending?
Nah, we did.
Can you plug the new canal group, or is it still supposed to be secret?
No, I'm going to go ahead and plug it. And we've kind of been on the fence about it because, we're rebuilding, so it's certainly not the kind of thing that we want to brag about. And there was a point with the SCA where we hit almost a degree of hubris, where people joined the SCA and would just spam the chat with SCA canal, oh my god, this and that, and it was annoying. And I didn't want to dissuade people from doing it because they felt some kind of pride with the group, but at the same time, it was annoying, and people don't want to see that, all the time. And I think that it got on people's nerves after a while. But it started with this discussion between me and Thebes over the course of a week or two about defenses for the canal and stuff like that. And he came up with the idea of, why don't we make the canal 2 chunks wide? And I was like, hey, that's a great idea. I gotta go, man, but it was nice talking to you. In my head, it sounded ridiculous, right? 2 chunks wide, that's ridiculous. So I went on to a spot way out past where the end of the canal actually was. And I went out and I actually built the canal that he designed solely out of curiosity. And when I stood back and looked at it, I was like, oh my god, this actually looks really, really awesome. And I went back to him. I was like, never mind, I take it back. This actually looks really cool. I posted some screenshots, and we went back and forth on ideas about protecting the canal and different designs that we used and such. And this was all happening mostly through DMs, and the new canal stuff that started with this new canal design was not the SCA at all. The SCA had kind of been essentially abolished at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So any kind of new canal work, and I'd say 90% of the depaving that's happened thus far has not been the SCA. It has been this new canal group.
I see. Well, that's interesting. That's something I didn't really know about. I knew that there was some. I knew that SCA had some drama, and I knew that there was kind of a new group that was coming down the pipeline, but I had never heard about this like ultra wide version of the canal.
Yeah.
Wide boy.
It sounds funny. It sounds like it would look weird, right? But
Doesn't it? Dude, that's exactly what I said. I was like, yeah, that sounds great, sure. And like in my head I was like, that's ridiculous.
yeah, well, if it works, it works. I mean,
Yeah, exactly. And I went out and I had to see it for myself, because on paper it sounds ridiculous. But when I went out and I built it and I looked at it, I was like, never mind, this is actually kind of cool.
Right. Lucan, go ahead.
Oh.
No, I was just gonna say that we've been working with this new group since the middle of January now. So
Can you tell us what it's called?
the Waterway Union.
The Waterway Union. Okay.
The Waterway Union. Yep. We knew what we wanted, so the name wasn't, crucial. It was really just the best and most dedicated people from the SCA meeting with the best and most dedicated people from the SEC. And we kind of just got together and formed this group. And
so who's running that? Is it you and Thebes?
there are a number of people that are part of, I guess you could say, management, but it's me and Thebes came up with the concept from the beginning.
Okay. Put that on the wiki, guys, quick. Godroster started Waterway Union.
How do you?
Yep.
Oh my god.
It's funny because saying the abbreviation is longer than saying the actual name, the WWU.
Uh-huh. So, Lucan, did you have any questions that you didn't get to, or?
So, do you think you're probably better prepared for griefs now than you were, like, let's say, after the primary, or like the first run-in with 5C?
Absolutely. Way more. In a sense, these people are kind of stress testing the canal and giving us an idea of what it is that we might have to, look to try to protect the canal against in the future. So it's like a trial run for the protection that we're setting up. And we've created some kind of a number of different clients and programs and forms of automation to help not just build but protect the canal and stuff. And we have a number of people that just way better at programming and stuff than I could ever imagine. Poe the Magic Dragon, Iron Exception, just I can't believe the kind of stuff they do. It's like freaking dark magic to me,
Right.
like just the way that they have set up all these different ways to help assist the canal and to help build things, and it's made it very easy to automate a lot of the process. So to answer your question, we're definitely a lot further along now, and there aren't a lot of core SCA guys or core SCC guys in this new group, but anything that you've seen on the canal, any kind of progress since it's been paved over, has been done by the Waterway Union.
Interesting. So it is in many ways like Sato said on the timeline, that this is the age of automation.
Yeah, I guess I still like going out and doing it essentially in vanilla, just digging the canal, doing it old school, I guess you could say. But it's not something that's possible because this group of canal griefers, they are still very active. So we are every day having to depave stuff that they have repaved. They're still doing it to this day.
Interesting.
Dang.
Interesting. So I want to talk about more of like we probably got like just 10 or so minutes left in the interview. So I want to talk about something other than the canal, something more like just generally about your opinions on the server. Because you are kind of a very new player. And
Very new, yeah.
a couple weeks ago, we talked to Jack the Rippa, who is like an ancient player. And his perspective on 2B was basically it was better before 2016, and he prefers Constantium because it's at least updated to 1.19.
I knew there were a few of them out there.
A few of them. What do you mean?
They preferred Constantium.
Oh yeah, most of the old players, it seems like they prefer Constantium.
A very shared opinion.
Yeah, man. When I had Constantium on my server list, it was always double digits at the most over there at Constantium.
Yeah, it's not very big, but
They like it that way.
But what? So his perspective is that of a very, very old player, but you're someone who's extremely new, and all you have ever known is probably 2BTT as it is today, in the kind of age of hype / post age of hype / hyper automation period. And when you played Bedrock, I imagine that was probably 1.19, right?
Oh yeah.
So
yeah.
How does it feel to go back to 1.12 after being on?
Well, he said he recently started playing Minecraft, so it's not really going back.
That's exactly right. 1.12 is new for me. I started playing, I think, in 1.17, I think.
Okay.
But yeah, 1.12.2. Well, not 1.12. Let me just say that I think 2B2T is amazing. And anyone that talks about how it's like past its prime and all this other stuff, that's just a bunch of sour grapes. 2B2T is like, it's this legendary server that's constantly evolving and constantly changing. And just when people get jaded and say that there's not a whole lot else that can be done with it, all of a sudden all group does some other kind of weird crazy thing that you could never imagine happening. There's so many people that are so dedicated to this server, and even if you see that user count dwindling, it doesn't change the core group of people that have this immense dedication to it. And there's really no other server like it, man. I've tried to play on like some of the other blank B, blank T servers that are out there, and
blank B, blank T.
Yeah,
that's totally what it is. They're just like insert random number here followed by T.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And there's so many of them, and some of them are like, hey, endless amounts of gear, and some of them are like, hey, we're on 1.19. But really, at the end of the day, they're all just kind of copies of the original. And as long as 2b2t.org exists, it's going to be literally the gold standard of what an anarchy server is and what it possibly could be, and there's not really anything that's going to overtake it, until they shut the doors down.
Interesting. See, that's kind of what I was looking to hear you say. Like, that's exactly what I was looking to hear you say. It's very hopeful, I guess, to hear you have that opinion of the server, because to me, I've been here kind of a long time, and that what you just said about the server is exactly the way I felt about the server when I joined in 2016. Like,
wow, 2016.
Yeah, the way you described the server is exactly how I felt about it when I first joined. So what that tells me is that the age of hype is still alive. Basically.
Right.
Yeah. I've thusly declared it. The Age of Hype is indeed still alive. And not to sound too over the top, but like there is some kind of allure and mysticism to the server, and like
Yeah.
the vast majority of people that know about 2B2T have never even logged in. If you look at the comments in like a FitMC video, they are spectators in a giant auditorium, where only a certain number of people are actually participating in the action.
You're right. You're right.
And let me tell you, when that one video with the Southern Canal, I was over in the living room, over at sitting on the couch eating supper with my family. I put that video on, and VidMC said, this user named Godroster, and my kids thought I was like a superhero.
Oh my gosh.
It was really cool. It was, I'm not gonna lie. It was like, it gave me the chills because, like, we were watching the guy, just a few months before talking about random stuff. It was like a TV show that we watched. It might as well have been. So it was really cool.
It is such a good feeling. I definitely identify with that. And some people, they become like clout chasers or whatever, and I kind of want to share my thoughts about that. I feel like it's okay to seek recognition and kind of like what you did, feel proud of your accomplishments. That's okay, but I think there's a right way to pursue that recognition where you're just doing something cool that gets attention versus a wrong way of doing it. And, the wrong way of doing it would be fucking paving over the canal as opposed to making the cookie factory that Fit notices. Like, that's the wrong way of clout chasing because it's hurting people. Whereas, like, I don't know. There's plenty of like scumbaggy type things that have gone on the server, and
oh yeah, definitely.
You don't need to be that way to get attention or clout. If that's what you want, if you want recognition or attention, there's a right way of doing it and a wrong way of doing it. And the right way of doing it,
the perfect example of that is 5 or 5th column. They did it in what I would perceive as the right way to grieve something, and they may have been doing it for clout, but they had an idea of what they wanted. They did it. They had their little victory party, and that was it. And I'm not on any kind of bad terms with any of the 5th column.
Oh, you don't begrudge them for that at all?
No. I mean,
wow.
Griefing's a part of what makes 2B what it is. And if there wasn't any kind of griefing involved, the builds that we make, the builds that anyone makes, the builds that Dawnfear makes, they wouldn't have the value that they do, knowing, that they're just going to be gone at one point or another. Enjoy them while they're there. Yeah.
That's true, and I would also make the case that when it comes to bases on the server, if your base never gets destroyed, no one sees it, and if no one sees it, it's kind of like it didn't exist.
That's funny, there's like a gray area there. It's a really good point, because if you build your base out at 25 million off axis in the middle of nowhere, you're basically playing survival at that point.
Or you're doing single player. You're just sitting basically in single player.
Single player with chat.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Single player with chat.
Yeah, and the chat is not a lot to write home about, but what are you doing? You're playing an older version of the game in survival. That's why if you're making a base, you should make it somewhere closer. But if you're making like a stash, that should obviously be out hidden from view.
Well, I think this is probably a good place to wrap it up. I really, really appreciated the conversation. I enjoyed it. I think you have a remarkable insight, actually, into the server. Being someone, I agreed with just about everything that you've said about the meta. I think you've figured it out, or you've kind of figured things out a lot faster than most people. I think you figured it out a lot faster than I did. It took me a couple years to really figure out how 2B2T actually works. So, you're very insightful for all of that, and thank you for doing this interview with us. I hope our audience really, really enjoys it. Is there anything else do you want to, do you have a YouTube channel or something that you want to plug before the end of the recording?
Yeah, I've got a YouTube channel. I've got a Twitch stream that I do once a week where I go and refill those cookie booths over near Spawn, and I get stream sniped constantly. But I guess it's all part of the fun. I still refill those booths at the very least once a week. So anyone that's starting off, if they make their way south, even if the canal's not there just yet, those booths will still be there. You can go grab some food so you can live a little longer. The Waterway Union are the ones that are working on the canal, and anyone that wants to be a part of it, they're more than welcome to message me in 2B chat or on Discord or on my YouTube channel or anything else. And I do want to mention I'm part of another group that was started by a friend of mine named Musk Wizard, and for the longest time I've wanted to create this group that's nothing but older in age type players on the server, a bunch of old guys. And I always threw the idea around, and he went ahead and made this group called the Graybeard Geezers. And everybody in the group's got to be at least 30, which
Fucking 30?
What the fuck?
Dude, by normal standards, 30 sounds like a normal age, but in 2B standards, if you're 30, you're dead.
Oh wait, that's
I'm 18,
ancient.
and I'm probably in the top 10% of age.
That's ancient, man. Yeah, damn. So no one currently in Dawn Fear could join, basically.
No, torture.
Oh, that's true. We do have one person.
How old's A1?
No, A1's not old enough.
Oh,
a couple, maybe, I don't know. And I'm definitely old enough.
That's
so
funny. Travis is 30.
Is he?
Travis is 30.
Okay, so he's barely old enough. Barely.
How old's Zach?
Yeah. No, he's nowhere near old enough. Okay, so we're gonna link all of your stuff. You can give me that. Just give me the links. I'll put it all in the description for our audience to check it out. Thanks everyone for listening. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. Please comment below what you think of it, and thanks so much for Godroster being so generous with his time and so insightful with his words. Thanks everyone.
Yeah, thank you so much, guys, and I'm always a fan of Dawn Fear. You guys are the best.
Thanks. I appreciate that.